I was sitting on the news desk at 7:02. I was a freelancer. I was doing my articles at Webber Wentzel Attorneys. It was Easter Saturday, and I had my feet up on the desk. It was shortly before 10 o'clock in the morning, and the switchboard phone rang, and I answered it, and a woman said, "I live over the road from Chris Hani. He's just been shot." Now, we were used to getting lots of hoax phone calls coming into the newsroom, so I had to have that guard up. Is this a hoax or isn't it? So she wasn't live on air. It was just me and her talking on the phone. I said, "Have you phoned emergency services?" Which she hadn't, because she didn't know their number. She only knew 702's phone number. So I said, "Well, just describe what's happening." And she said, "I saw this man in a red car shoot Chris Hani, walk down the driveway and drive off." I said, "What's happening now?" She said, "My husband is trying to revive him." And the reason I knew she was telling the truth was not only the level of detail, but she gave the color of the car, a red car. And one thing I learned while I was studying law is that you look for the detail if you're trying to work out the truth of something. If a witness gives you a lot of detail, you veer towards the truth. And the fact that she gave me the color of the car, I thought, this has to be right. I then said, "Can you give me your name? Can I do an interview with you?" And she put the phone down. And so my contact was lost. So I quickly phoned a reporter and said, "I think you need to get to Chris Hani's house immediately." I also phoned emergency services and said, "I'm not sure, but you might need to send an ambulance to this house. This is the story I've been told." And then I had the 10 o'clock news bulletin, where I had the biggest story of my life, and I couldn't say a word. Because what if the reporter got there to find Chris Hani was mowing his lawn on an Easter Saturday? I didn't want to go down in history as the guy who killed Chris Hani and he wasn't dead, especially because of the impact. If that story went out, it could cause huge problems. So I had to sit on it. I phoned the police. Of course, they didn't know. He was being revived by the neighbor. I phoned Jill Marcus, who was the ANC spokesperson, and I remember it sounded like I'd just woken her up, and she said, "Oh, we get stories like this all the time. I'll check it out." And I knew she wasn't taking it terribly seriously. Why would she? And then the phone rang, and it was the police spokesperson. His name was Colonel Franz Malherbe. I'll never forget him. And he said, "A body identified as that of Chris Hani," and I just put the phone down. I didn't need him to tell me the rest. I knew the rest. And I ran into the studio and broke the story. And that's when I thought to myself, this is a huge moment, and I have no idea how this is going to play out. It's going to go one of two ways. Either we're going to deal with it, which we did, or we're not going to deal with it, and we're going to tip over the edge. But I just remember sitting there thinking, this is probably the scariest moment I've ever been through, not knowing what is going to happen next. And thank goodness it all turned out fine.